Congratulations on the film. I've had a chance to sit down and watch it. I absolutely love it, and I am so pleased that it's going to be part of our Halloween extravaganza show here in Australia.
I'm so excited. I don't know how much you know about the backstory, but like we were supposed to be making it with Fox, and then Fox got bought by Disney, and then Disney don't make horror films, and so we kind of like got to that point, like a lot of people trying to make a movie where you go, oh my God, we're with the studio, and it still went wrong, and that's filmmaking, man, you know. And we came out the back of that and just put together our savings with a couple of mates and stuff, and went, we'll do it ourselves, and so. Yeah, I'm really glad you liked it because it really was one of those things made on a shoestring that we tried to make it look like it cost a little bit more than it did, and the reaction's been really good. I mean, obviously, it's that whole thing where, you know, with COVID kicking in, you know, it was crazy. But thank you so much, man. That means a lot.
Not a problem. How did you pick yourself up from that disappointment of what happened with Fox? Because I had a similar thing happen to me here as well. As a filmmaker, we were all ready to go on a film. We had a big name actor attached to it, and then we found out that our funding fell through. How do you pick yourself up from that and keep going with the project?
Well, luckily, at university, I studied something called alcohol, and I graduated with... No, it's like anything. You sort of because I spent 4 years trying to put it together, and then as you went through yourself, you get to that point and you go, "We're actually doing it. We're doing it." We were at the point where we were choosing camera packages and where we were going to do set builds and whatever, and we had like a couple of $1 million. And so when it fell apart, I was like, almost at that point where you go, "How do you ever get beyond this?" Because like any filmmaker, you know, you go and try and raise money through other routes, and the problem with this industry as well, there are so many producers, and the only thing they ever produce is a bloody business card, you know, and they promise you the moon, and so for us to get picked up from that, I took it pretty hard, and I spent a couple of weeks, and then my partner Shelley, who's a crazy Kiwi, just went, look, you know, why don't we do it? You know, we've got a couple of quid, you know, and literally it was a couple of quid, and we sort of did a personal, almost crowdfunding thing through people we knew. Like, you know, like one of our friends is a stunt woman, and she was doing a Coca-Cola advert, and she was out in, she lives in Barcelona, and she flew to the UK, stayed with us, threw herself off a building for no money, the scene at the beginning, over the balcony, and then flew out to Portugal, then came back and chucked a couple of grand into the pot. You know, it was literally like that.
Yeah.
You know, and when you've got people around you that believe in what you're trying to do, I think that's what really picks you up, because I think, like everybody, being a storyteller, you know, you just... I spoke to a really famous director once, and he said, and he's someone known for really big budget, sort of crazy, extravagant stuff, and he said, look, all you really need is a good story told well.
Yep.
And sometimes that story needs to be told in 3D or in black and white or as a musical. And I think so long as you just want to tell stories, because there's so, I mean, you've probably been there yourself, with so many people, they just want to be on the red carpet, or they want to be famous. And, you know, if I get, like, with me and Shelley, because we're doing it together, she's producing, I'm sort of writing and directing, you know, we were like, if we can pay our bills, if we can make a living doing this and working with people we're happy to see every day, because on our sets as well, you know, it's bolted together from, like, I mean, like the guy that did our special effects for the monster and stuff, Tristan Vaselis, he was my DIT operator on my first short film like 10 years ago.
Yep.
And he came over from Barcelona, where he lives, to help out on the film for no money. We covered it. We got him a cheap flight and a B&B, and he flew over to help us. And he worked on the shoot for like 7-8 days. And he goes, "I've got to go." I go, "Okay, cool, no problem, man. Appreciate you pitching in." But he was going to, he was flying out the next day to LA because he'd been nominated for an Oscar.
Wow.
So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nuts, right?
It is. And mate, going right back to the start of this journey as well, where did this original idea come about for the film? Because it is such an original idea for a film. Where did it come from?
Well, I watched the first, The Conjuring, which I thought the first Conjuring was great. And obviously some of the others are great, not a big fan of everything, but, you know. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you had a couple of people who sort of didn't believe in the supernatural, and were sort of like the opposite of the guys from The Conjuring,
yep.
You know? And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about someone we both knew who was a bit of bit of a prick, to be honest, but he was really charming. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's one of those guys who smile and you always want to lend him money, but you know you're never getting it back. And I thought if you had like a villain who you wouldn't mind having a beer with, that could be kind of interesting. So that's why we came up with the Caramel character, because he's not like the normal evil guy. You know, you normally have these people who are like, I'm evil and I hide in the walls and I've got a scar and I'm twisted and, you know, and I thought if I come up with a guy who comes across as someone who seems all right, you know, kind of witty at times and a bit of that. And so I sort of came up from there. And also, again, there's that thing, when you're an independent filmmaker, you go, well, I need a limited location because I haven't got much in the way of resources. I need to keep it tight. And so we did that. I mean, it's like, I'm going to ask you a question. You tell me, be honest with me as well. Did we get away with the location? I'll tell you for why. Because when you see them outside the building, that's one location. When you see them go in the corridor and up the lift, that's another location. When you see the corridor, that's another location. And then the apartment was another location. And we stitched it all together by trying to make it look like they were staying in this really nice apartment. Does it work?
That definitely works. There is no way that you could tell that it was put together like that.
Yes, because we couldn't afford to, like, you know, get anywhere proper, so we used a mix of friends' places and one Airbnb that will remain nameless, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what you do, right? When you're trying to, you want it to look right. We wanted it to look like it was in central London with a great view, you know.
Definitely.
We couldn't afford that.
And we have a lot of filmmakers that listen to this show as well. What did you find was the biggest step up you had to take from doing short films to a feature? Was there something that really surprised you about having to take that step up?
Oh, mate, that was a really good question, because I was so deluded. I was like, a lot of filmmakers. Well, I've done a couple of 20-minute short films, and we've done quite well with them. Got some great festivals and picked up a few badges. And so I was one of those guys, and you'd see me in a bar after a few too many going, oh, yeah, well, you know, if you get like, I just made this film for this amount of money and it's 20 minutes long. If you give me 5 times the time and 5 times the money, I can make you a feature film. And so I just assumed I'd be fine. And it was only 21 days, but we had one camera and no money. But it was one of those things, when you get into it, if you're doing a short film and you do it for 2-3 days or whatever, then you get to relax. With this, it's every single day, and you're up at 5 a.m. and you're on set at, you know, at 7 a.m. because, you know, you're getting things ready for other people to turn up, and you're finishing at 11 because, you know, you found a dead pixel in your camera and you had to borrow someone else's camera. And it's relentless for that whole period of time, and it's the same as when you get into the grade and the post-production. Whereas rather than sitting in the mates and listening to the score or you know, or looking at the grade for a couple of days, you're there for a month, 3 weeks, because the whole thing is so much more protracted. It's such a bigger thing. And in the last week, I genuinely became ill that you can't stop. And it was, I suppose it's like going from a sprint to a marathon overnight. It takes so much more. Someone far cooler than me, and I've forgotten their name, said that when you make a film, it will be twice as hard, take twice as long, but it will be 10 times as gratifying when you see it.
Definitely.
And that was what it was. It was so, and you know what? I don't know if you noticed, but at the front of our movie it says, you know, the classic thing where it goes, you know, made by or filmed by Adam Ethan Crow. On ours, it's a film by a family of filmmakers, and I genuinely believe that, because it was only after doing short films. I did some short films, Adam Ethan Crow film, and then after the camaraderie we had on set, brother, you have no idea. The people that were there because they wanted to be there. We were so lucky. Our whole crew, we worked with patriots, not mercenaries, you know. No one was there for the money because there wasn't much.
Yep.
They were all there because they wanted to be there.
Yep.
And it was so good. And the thing was, through COVID as well, we got into some really cool competitions and festivals and stuff. But I only got the chance to actually see it on a big screen probably about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. We managed to find a little 43-seater through a friend of mine, and we had a screening for the cast and crew. But it was a decent-sized screen, and it had good sound. And you know what it's like as a filmmaker yourself. You see it so many times that you start to focus on what's wrong with it, or oh, that light is wrong, or look, there's a C-stand in the background. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I got to sit there and watch it on a decent-sized screen with amazing sound, and I was like, wow. And when we came out, we went to the bar, and everybody was like on a real high because we'd done it. Yeah, and I think any film you watch, like you will sit there, and I'm one of them, and you can watch awful movies, but after making a film, you can go, okay, cool, but you did it. You made a film. And I think that's the problem. A lot of us, myself included, is so tied up in the idea. When I make my first feature, it's got to be perfect. I need to shoot on an area, and I've got to have this and that. And you haven't, man. Because, you know, you can shoot on the best kit. We've all watched blockbusters and gone, well, that was a really bad film, and they had $100 million. And I think it comes back to, you know, like I said, this other guy said to me, just get a good story and tell it well. And now with technology the way it is, like we had, like I'll be totally honest, man. We made our movie, we came out of it, and we were talking to our sales agent, who was amazing. They were incredible. They picked us up, and they thought we'd spend more on our money than the film than we actually had, obviously. And she said to me, "Oh, Studio Canal are picking you up," and I was like, "How does that even work?" It's like I've got so many friends of mine who have got their film picked up by distributors who you don't know, or you don't automatic name recognition or anything. And so, you know, look, these guys, I mean, Studio Canal to The Fog and Orphan, and you'll go, they're picking us up. Actually, someone I've heard of before in the space is picking up our movie. That was a night where we literally just went out and got crazy, because it was such a compliment for everybody, from makeup to the runners, because it is. I think when you make a film and anyone other than your nan says it's really good, that's pretty cool, you know?
Definitely. And Adam, you've got so many people now saying that this film is a great film. Where do you go from here now? Are you going to be a director who kind of solely bases themselves in the horror genre, or are you going to be like a Danny Boyle where you never really know what his next film is going to be?
Well, I'm one of these people, like a lot of people, I grew up with, you know, in the suburbs, no money, bit of thrash metal, you know, watching, you know, like zombie flesh eaters and Dawn of the Dead and stuff. So I always had a passion for it. But I think as I've grown, and I've got friends around me who do incredible, you know, who are incredible filmmakers as well. And I just think it comes back to I want to tell some great stories. I want to tell a great story. And if I find something like, we've got a little action film that we're playing with the idea of hopefully doing at some point, we don't know. And we also have a movie which I wrote actually before this one, but it was needed a real budget, called Bone Harvest, which is going to be a horror film we're planning on shooting next year in February. Again, you know, it's a bigger budget than the one we had here. You know, there'll actually be real catering on this one. No one has to have pizzas. But it's still a low-budget little horror film, but we think we've got a good premise. But one of the most amazing things that's happened to me from this little film, and this, honestly, brother, I fell off my chair. I got an email from a guy called Michael Grace, who obviously wrote Poltergeist.
Yep.
And, you know, produced Sleepwalkers with Stephen King and stuff. And we've been doing a few Zooms, and he's asked if I'd like to direct his next film. So that's pretty insane, right?
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. How do you take in news like that? Like, I know of filmmakers here in Australia that have had similar things where the directors that they've looked up to for years and years and years have reached out to them and said, "Hey, I watched your film and I loved it." How do you react when you get that kind of news that someone's work that you've loved wants to work with you?
I didn't know how to react, to be honest with you. I was, you know, I was just blown away when I got the email, and it was. I mean, look, you know, it's you know. Like I said, it's flattering that anyone because you know, people like different things. Some people love chocolate, other people don't. You can never tell how anyone's going to react to anything you've made, be it a film, be it art of any kind. You know, and it sounds pretentious saying art, but it's one of those things where I just wanted to make a film that I'd like to watch, and you know, that someone else out there like Michael stumbled over our project and enjoyed it. You know, it was genuinely, it blew me away. It would be like, I don't know, graduating university or something. It would be like, you know, your mum being in the front row when your band gets to open for Led Zeppelin or something. You know, it was one of those things which I never thought would happen. I think now though, with the way the world's changing, with diversity, with technology, I think there are some great storytellers which are going to start breaking through that probably wouldn't have had the opportunity before. You know, it's got to a point now where, especially after COVID, where everyone's been at home and we've watched almost everything we can watch, and people are now going, we need more content. And I think people have got so much good content and bad content, you know, where people are going, look, I'll be honest with you, when I first decided to direct this film, I was like, you know, I can't remember what it was, I watched a bad movie, and I was like, you know what, I've never directed before, but I'm pretty sure I could direct a bad movie, so I'll give it a go. And a lot of the time, we all get so settled in our lives that we just go, well, this is our life now. I work here and I do that. And I've done everything. I've worked at McDonald's and, you know, factories. And we settle so many times, be it on relationships, be it on career paths, be it on the car you want, you know, and we go, well, this is our life. And it really only is our life if we decide to settle, I think.
Yep.
And if I never make another movie, I'm going to make another movie, then this is still something where a million years from now you go, you know what? I spent like 3 weeks with some of my mates and we did this and people liked it. And, you know, we got to talk to a few people. Like, I'm sitting there talking to you on the other side of the world, man. This would never have happened had I not got up one morning and go, fuck it, let's go.
Exactly.
And I think that's but people put other people in boxes, but I think we do it ourselves. And if you've got a story you want to tell, then I was talking to someone the other day, and they want to make a short film, and they go, yeah, well, I need to do this, I need that. No, I mean, the thing with me is we got Corey in it, obviously, and Oded. And obviously Oded and Corey did The Mummy, and actually Corey's just finished the new Morbius movie with Jared Leto.
Yep.
And Oded is on Star Trek Discovery and a few other things. And I actually saw him in a movie, and a friend of mine said, oh, yeah, I worked with him, he was really cool, Corey Johnson. And so I sent an email to his agent out of the blue, and his agent basically said, well, look, I'll get Corey to read it. And one of my first short films was Warhol. It had a 6-minute monologue in it. And Corey read the 20-minute short film, and he really liked the monologue. So his agent said to me, Corey loves the monologue. He's interested in playing the part. Can you send me the whole screenplay? And I was like, that was it. They thought I'd sent just Corey his sides, and it was part of the feature film.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, but Corey really liked it. And Corey was in the UK filming Kingsman. And so he agreed to meet me for a coffee, and because we couldn't afford him. And I said, look, man, we've got pizza and we can cover your cab to the set and we'll work around you. And he came down and gave us 2 days and we shot that film and we actually became friends. And when we were doing this, he said to me, oh, yeah, well, you know, Oded's a really good friend of mine. Maybe I can get him to come down. I was like, okay. And again, Oded pitched in. It was like, yeah, cool. There's no money, but let's have fun. And I think the other thing with it as well is when you want to work with actors as well or directors, we always like go, oh, well, I can't reach out to them. Why? Because they're really famous. But why not?
Yeah.
Just do it. I have a project that I really like. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I've forgotten his name now, the guy I got it to. But I wanted Chris Hemsworth to read it. And obviously, you know, we had no money for Chris, but I was like, why not? And a friend of mine, James M. Vernon, who's actually an Australian filmmaker, he did Hacksaw Ridge.
Yes, yeah.
So he was making a film with Liam. So I reached out to James, and James gave me some numbers, and I made some calls and sent it out. And it got to Chris, and his agent came back and said, this is interesting. It's his Australian agent, I can't remember his name, or might be his manager, came back and said, look, this is interesting, we think it's great, but, you know, at this level we'd need you to, you know, bring in like a director like Danny Boyle or Paul Feig and stuff. And again, we didn't have the money, man. So I reached out to Paul Feig, and Paul Feig's people came back and said, Paul's working for 2 years, and that died a death. It never went anywhere. But that was a romantic comedy that I've written, set in wine country, called Decanton, California. So again, wanting to go and do other things. But, you know, we didn't get anywhere with it. But, you know, from my understanding, Chris liked it. That's not bad.
That is,
you know?
that is absolutely amazing. And, man, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly because they only gave me 20 minutes with you. But to wrap up, what would you like to say to everybody out there before they sit down to watch this film? It's coming out here in time for Halloween. What would you like to say to everybody who's going to sit down and watch this film over the Halloween period?
Number one, I'd like to say thank you very, very much. It means a lot, not just to me, but to everybody who put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And hopefully they're gonna see something in it. We tried to do something a little bit different than the normal scary movie. But you know, I think there's something for everyone. I think there's a good little story in there, and I mean, again, Tristan crushed it. I mean, obviously you've seen it, but some of the VFX in there, I don't think they look like they were done from the smell of an oily rag. So I think at the end we've got a proper payoff for people. But I just want to say thank you, because I know that right now with so much content out there, for someone to sit down and take an hour and a half or whatever and go, you know what, we're going to watch this, that really means more than I can say. Because we literally, you know, we worked our asses off to try and tell a little story, and the fact that people are enjoying it just means more than I can say, man. Honestly, I'm genuinely humbled by the whole thing.